This one is a return of sorts for Jamall Emmers, Matt. I know the Fight Night Picks fans, there's a lot of big Jamall Emmers fans out there, and he was originally supposed to take on Chaz Skelly not that long ago. His last win was August of last year. He beat Vince Cachero pillar to post. And then if you really do dig into it, you think about how highly the UFC themselves think of Jamall Emmers. I'm going to read off some of the names that he's been booked against, let alone fought. Movsar Evloev. That fight falls out. Evloev gets in the bad motorcycle accident. Giga Chikadze loses split decision. No shame in that one. He's half of the main event this weekend. Timur Valiev, that fight falls out. He gets Vince Cachero. He beats him. And then he's supposed to fight Chaz Skelly. Now, that was back in February. And if you looked at it, that was weird. You know, Chaz Skelly went out, did the Jonathan Papelbon. He did the Irish jig. And then they paid him, and he did the weird interview after the fact. Everything about it was weird. But from all accounts, Jamall Emmers had some sort of back spasm in the back. I listened to an interview this week. It was from Odds Checker US with James Lynch. And Jamall Emmers said that it actually was a herniated disc, not just back spasms. They found that after the fact. He said he didn't have any surgery on it. He went through rehab at the UFC PI. It really took him, like a month or more to kind of get back the strength to actually get out of bed, to laugh, to be able to train again. And for Jamall Emmers, a big difference in this one, and it's no skin off your back, Matt, but I did switch it, so you will see it up there in the graphics if you're tuning along with us. The fact that Jamall Emmers, not a pinnacle MMA for this one. I even wrote it down in my notes. I wrote down Caldwell, Bobby Green, because I bring them up every time Jamall Emmers fights. They're great guys to train with for most circumstances. He's actually training out of MMA Gold and Team Alpha Male. And there's one fighter that cross-trains a lot between there. It's Max Payne Griffin, but there's all sorts of good guys that train between the two. There's a little bit of a partnership between those two gyms. But I really do think, with Jamall Emmers, this is a very, very special fighter. You talk about it even against Vince Cachero. He went 5 of 7 for his takedown attempts. He had 5 minutes and 47 seconds of control time. He outstruck him 103 to 76. Matt, I can go on and on about Jamall Emmers and how special he is. And the fact that he has a win over Corey Sandhagen, but he couldn't beat, Thiago Moises? So there's that. Jamall Emmers, really special fighter, great at ground and pound, great at striking. I've said all of this for Jamall Emmers. Man, Pat Sabatini's one special fighter in his own right, and this is a guy that can light you up on the feet to get you down to the ground. I liken him to like a Charles Rosa, but a lot of people weren't having that in the comments section. I thought it was a pretty fair comparison, but Pat Sabatini, this guy's special. If we make it around to the third round, you never know what's going to happen, but overall, very fun fighter.
I like a Pat Sabatini a little bit closer to Grant Dawson than I would like a Charles Rosa, because what Pat Sabatini really likes to do is once he has that top control, he makes great use of it. Like we talk about a lot of fighters how sometimes they'll get the takedown, then they just kind of lay there and don't do anything for a couple of minutes. That doesn't really score anything in the judge's eyes. When Grant Dawson gets somebody to the ground, when Gregor Gillespie gets somebody to the ground, they make good use of that work. They do ground and pound. They try to soften you up to get into a more dominant position, and they move from there. And Pat Sabatini is a great example of a guy who gets that top pressure, and he makes great use of it. Now, it is kind of interesting because I was really on the Pat Sabatini hype train coming into the UFC, and it was interesting, him getting Tristan Connolly. Tristan Connolly at 145 pounds, very weird, but it was a competitive fight. Like, Pat Sabatini definitely won. Don't get me wrong. He won every round of that fight.
No,
but that fight was a lot closer.
No, he won the first round. He won the second round. He had 9 minutes. He had almost 10 minutes control time, 9 minutes and 58 seconds. And then in the third round, Tristan Connolly took over, which is weird.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I worry about Pat Sabatini, because if Tristan Connolly had any question marks down at 145, it would be his gas tank. We've seen him at 170 pounds. He looked terrible at featherweight. So that was a big concern going into that fight. I was like, oh, Connolly, he's got a good gas tank, but what's it going to look like? He made it competitive in the third round, and that's always something that's going to worry me about Pat Sabatini moving forward. If he doesn't get the finish going into that third round, because he does expend so much energy going for his takedowns, trying to pass guys guard, he is a lesser version of himself. That one to me, remember when Joe Solecki beat Jim Miller? It was like, yeah, you won, but you won, and that was it. Like, it's a W on your record, but nobody's talking about it the next day. No one's ever going to bring that fight up again other than us breaking the fight.
No, they will. They will, because he broke the FNP interview curse. So there's that.
That is true. But you know what I mean? Like, it was a win, but you would have liked to have seen a little bit more. That's how I felt leaving the Tristan Connolly fight with Pat Sabatini. And that's why this fight will be interesting. Jamall Emmers is a phenomenal wrestler, but I do think that in the grappling department, at least, Sabatini is a much more of a threat to get a submission defensively or offensively. So it really comes down to how is Jamall Emmers going to fight this fight? Because if he tries to stand on the outside, if he makes Pat Sabatini really reach for his own takedowns, I think he can box him up on the inside. I really do, because Sabatini has okay striking. I really don't think it's at like this. I don't even think it's at like a solid level. I don't. He's kind of stiff on the feet. He doesn't have this great fluidity to him. And I worry if a guy like Jamall Emmers is able to close that distance and make it either a really ugly fight in the clinch so that Pat Sabatini isn't able to really shoot on his takedowns, or if he just stands so far away for him and forces him to really lunge for them. I really think Jamall Emmers is the superior striker in this.
I mean, listen, Pat Sabatini striking is better than your web quality and overall resolution. So there is that. But I do like Sabatini striking because it is a little unorthodox. It's a little awkward. It's something that you're not going to see in the gym every single day. This is a guy coming out of Renzo Gracie in Philly. He does have a teammate on this card that we will talk about later on. But Matt, when I look at the odds for this one, Emmers open a -145. He's roughly a -150 right now. Sabatini hovering in the range of a +125. I have not looked at the Tapology votes, so I'm going to shoo you away. I'm going to look at them. 913 total votes, 61% Sabatini, 78% by decision for the 39% that have Jamall Emmers, 72% by decision. A lot of people seeing a decision in this one. I see it as a really close fight. I think it's lined right. I hesitate on the injury to Jamall Emmers. He's been away for a while. Obviously, that last one was great over Vince Cachero, but Cachero not really on the level of those guys that I mentioned earlier as far as the names that Emmers has been booked with. I think this is a great job of matchmaking. That's where my hesitations lie. I have Jamall Emmers in this fight. I think Pat Sabatini is an awesome fighter. He's a great fighter. This is one where I call it a 50-50. I look like a donkey, whether I get it right or wrong, but I think you're going to get a really good fight out of this one.
Yeah, I agree. I do think this is going to be a phenomenal fight. And again, I do agree with you. I ever so slightly favor Jamall Emmers in this one because, again, I think he can at least sustain whatever game plan he goes into that fight with. With Sabatini, we do see that drop off. And again, it will be interesting because Sabatini might be like Paulo Costa, you know, like he expends so much energy. That's why he is tired. Like he throws a lot of strikes. That's why he's getting tired. When he grapples, he really is going for it. Like he's chaining multiple takedowns together. He's going for a lot of passes on the mat. Maybe if Sabatini doesn't go for so many takedowns and he isn't so grapple heavy in the first round, maybe we will see a fresher Sabatini in that third round and it could be a more competitive fight. But I do agree with your assessment and I do like Emmers in this one.
You look at Sabatini, you look at his losses. He had one to Robert Watley really early on in his career. That was a guy that you know and love from PFL. You look at it in his last loss, obviously that one dislocated his elbow against James Gonzalez, and then he came back, beat Tononi, beat Stern. And then the other loss was to Jose Marcial. And that wasn't, how long ago was that? 2018. So, I mean, listen, decent names on the regional scene, plus you're losing by decision. Obviously, that was a freak fluke of a finish loss that he did have. So I think this one should be a great one. I like it to end up by decision. It's a flip of a coin who wins. I'm going with Emmers. You're going with Emmers. It should be a great one, and we've got great fights littered throughout, including some debuts that you're not going to want to miss. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. And as we always say,
let's get into it.